Hi, I'm Paula Banks, author and founder of When Kids Create and EION Books, and I am a woman on a mission to change the way that we tell stories to our kids. Today, I am going to be talking about beyond bookshelving. Basically, I'll be talking about identity and our nation and the future we're shaping with every single story that we tell to our children. Whether you're a parent or an educator or an author or just someone who cares about kids, then you are in the right place today. So, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Again, I am Paula Banks. I'm a children's book author, publishing mentor, and a creative educator. I help kids and inspiring authors bring their stories to life with confidence, culture, and creativity. The Lit Kids Create and EON Books. I guide the next generation of storytellers from young writers finding their voice to parents and educators building inclusive bookshelves. It's super important for me to advocate for parents to definitely diversify their bookshelves, to pick up books with children that do not look like their children, to open them up to a different world. So that is super important to me. Why, you may ask? Well, when I was young, a little girl, many moons ago, I never saw a character in the books that I read that looked like me. Um, I love books. I love reading to this day. But the first time that I ever saw a main character in a book, I was well into high school. Yes, high school. And that kind of shifted something in me. I knew that that's what I wanted to write. Um, I wanted to write stories that had characters that looked like me and other little black and brown girls. And ones that where they weren't just a sidekick or in the background, they were the heroes of the story. And I wanted to make sure that that is something that they would be able to see from the beginning. When they open a book, they see that is something that they would be able to see from the beginning. When they open a book, they see, oh my God, she or he looks like them. So this is why it is super important for me. Um, Today, we're going to cover some real stats about diversity gap in children's books. We're going to talk about why representation matters, not just for kids of color, but for all kids. Some common issues that I'm still seeing in publishing, what it looks like when it's done right, representation in stories, and most importantly, what can you do to help in this fight that we're fighting for our kids. So let's jump in. So let's talk about the diversity gap. The stats, they speak loud. So let's get into the numbers because numbers tell a story. So according to the Cooperative Children's Book Center, about 13% of children's books feature Black characters. Latinx, around 9%, Native and Indigenous, less than 1%. And it's not just the books about who, it's not just about who the books are for, but it's also who writes them. There are many of the books with Black and brown characters that are not written by people of color. This was something that was a bit surprising for me when I first got into the on my author journey. And it's been a debate back and forth about why does it matter if a person of color writes a book about, a person or a child of black who is black and brown. And it's because if you are not living their experience, then how can you be very authentic? How can you tell an authentic story? It's important, so it's because if you're outside of the culture, it's easy to get the story wrong. It's easy to bring in things that are carried over, things that you've heard from other cultures. It's not something that is authentic. It's not this true story is not being told. So that has also been a huge debate. But it is something that, for me, I do feel if you are writing for black and brown children, a story about their culture, then you should definitely be um, you know, a black or brown author. I just think that it's authentic. It tells the true story. They're gonna get it right. Um, so, why it matters. Representation. It's more than just inclusion, it's affirmation. Um, when you see yourself, or when kids see themselves in stories and books, or any profession, or it gives them the confidence, saying that, oh, I can do that too. There's been many times that I've been going into schools and kids are like, wow, you're an author. I can't be an author. And I'm like, why? And their response is because I don't I don't know any authors, or I have to have a lot of money to be an author, you know. And when they find out that they can actually do it, they see me doing it, it gives them like, okay, I can do it as well. So representation, not just in books, but in anywhere, to see when kids see someone that looks like them and they're doing something that they want to do, it's definitely empowering. Reflection, when kids see themselves again reflected on the pages of books, it tells them you are valuable, you belong. When I was a kid, not seeing myself in books like my other friends, it started to make me feel like something was truly wrong with me. After a while, I would think like, wow, what is wrong with me that I don't get a character in a book, or I'm never in a book? You know, is it my hair? You know, is it my skin color? Like, it started to really make me think as a young girl, like there must be something wrong if all the books that I am reading do not have anyone, not one character that looks like me. So reflection is definitely important. Confidence, as I said before, it can shape their confidence, their dreams, and how they move in the world. If you see something, again, like a child who wants to be an author, if they see me, a black woman who wants to be, who's an author, and they see me, this gives them confidence, like I said, that they can do it as well. It's super important for our kids to see themselves in all areas, in everyday life, because it builds up that confidence. Um, and I feel like once they are able to constantly see this in books and, at school and different professions, it definitely helps them move in a way that they're determined and they're ready to just take on the world. So this is why diversity in stories and anywhere, in life, is important for children. Um, and why does it matter for all kids? To be honest, it's not just the kids who are underrepresented. It's all kids benefit from diverse stories. They learn empathy. They understand different cultures, and they're less likely to carry biases that may be brought upon them from their parents or from their environment. But again, that is why I'm very, very, very passionate about having parents choose books for kids who are not of color, who are of a different race, because it definitely gives them an inside look at people who are not like them. When they move in this world, when they leave their homes or they go to school, they're going to encounter people that do not look like them, and they need to know that that's because that another person is different doesn't make them bad. It doesn't make them weird. It's fine. And this is not just for color, it's for people who have disabilities, who are autistic. All of these things fall under the inclusion and diversity. And this is one of the best ways to teach empathy to kids, is through stories. It literally builds a bridge that can that sometimes it can't be built any other way. Stories really allow children to go into other cultures and other worlds that they might not normally be able to see or may never see in their everyday life. So this is another reason why it matters for diverse stories. Um, so Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop, she broke it down the best. Um, Books should be mirrors so kids can see themselves. Books should be windows so kids can see others. And books should be bridges so that they can connect across these differences. That framework changed how I teach, how I parent, and how I write. This is a quote that just sums it up so beautifully. Um, Books, kids should definitely be able to see themselves, and books are windows so kids can see others. That is why it's important for parents to have those diverse books on their bookshelves. I created a level up mini course that allows parents to take a quiz. It takes you through a couple of modules and it shows you how to build a diverse library. A lot of parents are like, well, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. Should I get this? Should I do that? And I was like, well, let me help. Let me bridge that gap. So that is a resource that I created for parents where they can get steps and resources that will allow them to start building that diverse library so their kids can see in those windows of their other students at school, so this is one of a quote that I think just nails it perfectly when it comes to talking about inclusivity and diversity. um, so when people ask me what is my favorite part of being an author, I have to say is when little girls come up to me and say, this character looks just like me. My character, Peyton, is a little black girl with big, curly natural hair. And it never gets old when a little girl comes up to me and says, she looks like me. So again, so the first time it happened, I gave a book I wrote to a little girl at an event. And again, the main character looked just like her. She flipped through it, looked at it, and she said she's got my hair. And when she asked me if I wrote it, I said yes. And the look in her eyes just meant everything. At that moment, that's what I knew. That's why I do what I do, because one book can light a fire. That one, just her seeing herself in that book, it could have changed everything for her. So that is what keeps me going. The stories stick, and if we get them right early, we're setting kids up to walk boldly in their truth. So when I have any child that comes up to me and says, I'm so like, oh my God, they look like me, and the excitement that they have, that is why I continuously do what I do with writing. And it happens quite often. I know that there are a lot of books out here that have, little black and brown girls, but it's still not as much as, our white counterparts. There's tons and tons of books. So I think with them, it's still like, it still gives them that fuzzy feeling like, oh my God, this looks like me. And it really, really lights them up. So that is one of the impacts that I see from what I'm doing. Um, so my journey as a writer, I didn't come from publishing. I just came from, like I said, not um, being able to see myself in books. I came from an environment, from a community of, working mom. I love hip hop. I love storytelling. That's just been passed down from like my grandma's kitchen. I started writing because I was just tired of waiting for someone else to tell our stories. Who can tell our stories better than we can? And this is another reason I created the Lit Kids Create, to help young authors find their voice and give our babies the stories they deserve, full of joy, depth, culture, and pride. I am really trying to get as many of our babies to become published authors. Um, as a child, I have a program that I go into the schools and I help them write their stories. We go through a whole, course, and at the end, I tell them, if you finish your story, if you submit your story, then you will be in a anthology of a book of a book of stories with other kids, and they will become a published author. I want kids to know that if you don't see the stories that you want to see, or if somebody's not telling your story, then you have the voice to write your own story. And you don't have to wait until you're older. You can do it right now. So I'm empowering them to take control and find their voice and create and speak about their lived experiences. That other kids that live those same experiences can relate to, because that's important. I don't think that a lot of books show all the sides of where children of come from. There are sometimes some are in two-parent homes, some are in one-parent homes. Some have a lot of siblings that they have to help with. Some, are running households because their moms have two or three jobs. These are real stories, and if a child can write that and share that and encourage someone else, or have that story where it can relate to someone else, then that is why I created this program to do. So everybody can be represented. And that's, like, again, that is super important. Um, as a whole, we do fall short. But just having Black and brown characters isn't enough. We still see the tokenism, like I said before, characters with no depth, stories that center or around struggle, but no joy. And there's still a major gatekeeping issue. Authors who are of color are underpaid, underpromoted, and often pushed to write about trauma instead of triumph. So it just is, it's just about more books. It's about better books. There can be struggle, or there can be a situation, but at the end they should show the joy within. They should show the joy as well. And that's not always something that happens in the books and the stories that are out now. And I'm not just talking about, children's books for like picture books. I'm talking about books for our middle grade, our young adults. As they're getting older, they need to have those books as well, that are speaking to them from a place of someone who has or is dealing with what they're dealing with, or going through the things that they're going with. So, and as a whole, we definitely need to look at how we're still not able to tell our stories fully. Especially with the bigger publishing companies. That's another huge reason why a lot of Black and brown authors self-publish, is because we're able to tell our story. We have creative control over what we want to do, what we need to say, how we want to say it. And I think that is such a wonderful avenue for anyone who wants to write and tell their story. And that is why I also and am trying to make our children authors, because this is a way that they can tell their story without anyone controlling their narrative. When inclusivity and diverse books is done right, there are a few books that I highly recommend. aside from my own. So we have Hair Love by Matthew A. Cherry. That is a book about a Black father and daughter love. Sell We, it's a powerful message about self love and colorism. Dream Big, Peyton's Hip Hop Adventure. That is my book, and that's about music and self doubt. And then we have Little Leaders, celebrates Black women who have changed the world. These books don't just include us, they're centered around us. We are celebrated, and it's told in truth. So again, these books don't just include us, they're centered around us. They celebrate us. And that is what I want for every book that a young Black or brown person picks up, to look at this book and feel celebrated, feel like they are included, and not just in the background of the story. And again, those are just a few of the books that I actually love and feel that they definitely got it right. So as parents, what can we do? So as parents, you can create a home library that reflects the world. You can create a home library that is reflective, and it supports independence and own voice authors of the world. So even though we have our children who are Black and brown, and we have books that reflect that, there are other children who are dealing with disabilities, as I stated before, autism. Those are books that we definitely need to add to our child's library to know more and get to know more about those type of things, because again, you never want your child to run into someone who's, say, in a wheelchair and not understand what that is, or and think it's funny or something like that. Again, that's where the empathy comes in. That's where the teaching comes in through the stories. For educators, you can audit your classroom and school libraries. What's missing? Do you have certain type of books? Do you have too much of a certain type of book? Are you missing? Really take inventory of your classroom's library, and see what can you add that actually reflects your class as a whole. Make sure that everyone in your class, every student, is seen or can see themselves in a book that's in your classroom library. Integrate those diverse stories into everyday lessons. Make everyone feel included, like they're not left out. So that is what, for educators and teachers. For authors, if you're an author listening, tell your truth, write stories that are full of joy and not just pain. Yes, life can be struggles. And as Black and brown folks, we do get a lot of struggles, and we deal with a lot on a daily basis. But all our stories don't have to be about struggle. There is so much joy and so much triumph, that we don't have to write about pain all the time. We don't have to exclude the pain, but I want authors to show all facets, the pain, the joy, the triumph, in their stories. And for leaders and organizations, make inclusion part of your programming, not just a once a year on your checklist. Inclusion should be something that you're constantly working at, constantly including in your programming. And when you're thinking about programs that are needed, inclusion and diversity, and making sure that that is a key aspect. And when you're setting things up, or when you're planning, I know that right now, with our current administration, a lot of that, with the DEI, has been eliminated. So it's our job to really push and make sure that we're heard and we're seen. That is our job to do. We can't, we just because they dropped the ball, we can't drop the ball, especially for our kids. So for leaders and organizations, definitely make inclusion part of your programming. Work with your community, see what is needed, more resources. that is just super important for our communities today, definitely. So my vision for Beyond the Bookshelf, if it was a perfect world, every child would see themselves in a book by the time that they were 5 years old. Um, a bookshelf that feels like home for everyone, and for the next generation of writers who aren't waiting for permission to tell their stories. They're not just creating readers; we're building future storytellers, leaders, and world changers. I wish that every single child, could see themselves in a story. That they can just go right now and pick up a book and be like, "Oh, this is me. That reminds me of me." Like they can have at least one book that they know, like, you know what? I can go get XYZ book and I know that such and such is going to be just like me. They're going to look like me. They have a wheelchair like me. Their hair is like me. In a perfect world, that's what it would be. Unfortunately, that is not something that is happened yet, but I am on a mission to do what I can to get um, to get as close to that vision as possible. Um, and as far as everyone who's watching this, that should be your mission as well. At some point, to just ensure that you're doing your part, trying to make sure that your child is exposed to diverse and inclusive stories. People say, "Oh, does it really matter if they read about?" And I can't stress enough that my thought is, why don't you think it's important? Don't you like to see yourself reflected in your everyday life or in the stories you read, or and feel that you can relate to a story? It is truly important. It's not just about the story. It makes them, it's about their confidence building. It empowers. So this is definitely my vision, to make sure that, to try to get every child to see themselves in stories, to make them feel empowered. And I think that is a lofty vision, but I will continue to try and do what I can to make it happen. Um, so before we wrap this up, and I know I'm rambling on, but I just get so passionate talking about this. Um, I want you to think about, what is one story you wish you had as a child, or what is one story do you want to help bring to life now? Think about that. What is one story you wish you had as a child, that you were like, you know what, if I could go back today and be 3 years old or 4 years old, this is the story I wish I could have seen when I was back then. And then think about, what story would you want to help bring to life now? I always say to people that everybody has a story. I mean, it's a story. Everybody has a story. So, what is a story that you feel that you could help bring to life now? Is it a story that's about your child? Is it a story that you would want to tell about your childhood, a special moment from your childhood, a special moment from last week? Those two questions, think about those two questions, because I can guarantee that the first question, what's one story you wish you had as a child? We all have one, especially if you're black or brown. You have one, and a lot of the time it's just, I wish I saw myself in stories. um and if you have a story in you, now's the time to get it out. Now is the time to get it out of your head and get it on paper. Let's join let's just go towards this vision. I always say to people, if you have a story, what's stopping you from putting it out there? Especially for a story for kids. It's important. It's important, especially if you have little children at home. You can tell that story about your true experience. Um, so yeah, think about those two questions. What's one story you wish you had as a child, and what story do you want to help bring to life now? If you have one, which I'm sure that you do. Because again, inclusion and diversity, it goes beyond the bookshelf. It goes beyond the bookshelf. It starts with the bookshelf, with the inclusiveness of the stories, but it goes beyond that. We want our children to see themselves, not just in stories, but we want them to be seen in every aspect in their everyday life. They should see doctors, lawyers, policemen. They should see authors and publishers and leaders and in their community, and they should see these on a regular things that they astronauts. These are things that they should see all the time to so they can feel empowered. It starts with the stories, but again, it goes beyond the bookshelf. The stories is where it starts. Once we can really get in more inclusive stories, more diverse books and libraries and classrooms, and and more in the big publishing houses. But even if that doesn't happen, we control our destiny. We have self-publishing. We can tell our own stories. You have a story, you tell it. Even if you don't put it on paper, tell the story to your child. Get your story out there. But again, we control the destination, we control the narrative. We have the control to get these inclusive stories out into the world and for our babies. Again, my vision is for all kids to see themselves in books, but my real vision is for for them to see themselves in their everyday life. And that is why I'm so passionate about diversity and inclusivity. I probably was rambling a little bit, but that is just my passion coming through. I appreciate everyone who tuned in to spend some time with me today and listen to me talk about inclusivity and why diverse stories are so important for our children, and how it's the foundation for building confidence, building empathy, building that empowering feeling. It starts with stories, and I truly believe that. So again, I thank everyone who tuned in. If you'd like to connect with me or collaborate or bring more diverse storytelling to your school or organization or community, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me at my website at eionbooks.com. That's EION. Books, BOKS.com. You can find me on Instagram at author Paula Banks. I am always on Instagram posting, and you can find me there. But again, before I leave, I just want to say thank you for taking your time and spending some time with me, learning about the importance of diverse stories for our children. Thank you, and I hope you are ready to diversify your children's libraries and join the good fight. Thank you. Bye. Have a wonderful evening.
Now, what are those self-explanatory